I was all without.
Good morning. On behalf of the Guwahati Regional Committee of Indian National Consideration and Academy of Economics and Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Assam University, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the inaugural program of this two-day international seminar, Development and Changes, Role of Anthropology and Allied Disciplines. We want to begin the inaugural program with the theme song of anthropology, which has been written by our senior anthropologist, Dr. Kumar Methi. So this song, generally for all anthropological occasions, we try to sing a song. So we'll begin the program with the theme song of anthropology. Good morning and welcome, you all. I want to say about our theme song, the meaning of the theme song, very shortly. The broad meaning of the song is amazing anthropology is the field of our concentration of knowledge on the basis of which we put different meanings to our lives. The society is full of different castes, tribes, sects, race, etc. The world is full of stories, idols, tools, etc. Various faith and religions, the world is full of innumerable traits of human culture. We verify and discuss all the societies and cultures of world and construct an enormous store of knowledge. All human beings in the omniculture of Putra, that is son of nectar of heaven, and all of them are our intimate kings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The song was performed by the students of Assam University. We will begin the inaugural program by welcoming the dignitaries to the dais, and we begin with our Dr. Noreen Dr. Founder Chancellor, Assam University. I request our research scholar, Ms. Nora Raha, to kindly after sir into the dais. We will also like to felicitate sir from the Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropology. So will be felicitated by Dr. Panikhaiti, faculty member of Department of Anthropology and Guwahati. I would like to request Professor Noreen Chandrapur, Vice Chancellor, Assam University, to the dais. Sir would be felicitated by Dr. Upal Dr. Honorary Ravina Hassan, faculty member of MC College, Portland. I would like to now request Dr. Vandana Dr. Dean, Faculty of Studies, Assam University, to the dais. She will be felicitated by Professor Jagdish Bora, from the Department of Management and Social Work, Assam University. Alright, now I'd like to request Professor Kishore K. Basa, Chairman of Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropology to the dais. He would be felicitated by Dr. Utpal Dr. Honorary Dean of Performing Arts, Assam University. We also have in our midst the Pro-Vice Chancellor of Assam University, Professor Chandrapur Singh. We would like to request you, sir, to be kindly seated. We will be felicitating you in your place there. I'm sorry, sir, but we're ready. I request Dr. Nilomar Jasmine to kindly felicitate Professor Chandrapur Singh. We also have amongst us Dr. Dispur, Research Associate of Anthropological Survey of India. We would like to felicitate you, sir, for your presence here. And Dr. Guwahati would kindly felicitate Dr. Dispur. We would also now like to call upon our President, Dr. Dispur, President of the Guwahati Regional Committee, Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropology, to the dais. And by the way, we felicitated the Kamusa by Dr. Panikhaiti. We will now move on to the next agenda of the meeting. That is the purpose of the meeting to be stated by the Secretary, Guwahati Regional Committee of the Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropology. And I request Dr. Nilomar Jasmine to kindly deliver the address.
Namaskar. Thank you, Sandana. Good morning, a very good morning to all. Honorable Chancellor of Assam University, Dr. Chandrapur, Honorable Chairperson of Indian National Confederation and Anthropology, Professor Dispur, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Assam University, Professor N.C. Kalugwar, Dean of Studies of Assam University, respected Professor Panikhaiti, respected President of Guwahati Regional Committee of INCA, Dr. Dispur, all my respected teachers, esteemed dignitaries, and dear participants from different parts of the country and abroad. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the international seminar on development and safety, role of anthropologists and the allied disciplines. Myself, Dr. Dispur, General Secretary of Guwahati Regional Committee of Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropologists, taking the opportunity to convey my heartfelt greetings on behalf of both organizations, Guwahati Regional Committee of India, and also the Assam University, to all of you. It is a proud moment for us to state that from its inception in 2005 years of INCA, the first regional committee of this organization of professional anthropologists is actively working for the development of the subject, organizing various events time to time. Some of the important activities of the organization have been highlighted in the newsletter. Among different activities, one of the most important of the organization is the celebration of Foundation Day by organizing Foundation Day lecture. Every year, the INSA observes the Foundation Day in different educational institutions of Assam compensated. Exhibition, popular talk, so and other events are organized on the day. The day is a great get together for all the anthropologists of the region. This year, instead of the lecture, a seminar was proposed to organize and in collaboration with Assam Downtown University, a premier educational institution of Assam. It is to be mentioned that Dean of Studies of this university, Professor Vandana Gupta, retired as head of the Department of Anthropology of Dispur College. She is an anthropologist by heart and first president of Guwahati Regional Committee of India. Though this seminar was proposed to organize in the month of August to celebrate with the Foundation Day of India, due to different reasons, it was postponed and rescheduled. So on 28th August, we observed the Foundation Day by hosting the flag and with a meeting in the office of the DRC the Department of Anthropology of Panikhaiti. So generally, the annual there are things of Foundation Day, but this year it is also possible to organize it along with the seminar. And tomorrow, after the validation registrar function, AGM of Guwahati Regional Committee of INSA will also be held in this premise. So, purpose of this meeting is to inaugurate the international seminar, which is a joint venture of Guwahati Regional Committee of INSA and Assam Downtown University, and organized this is organized as the part of Foundation Day celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jasmine. We would now like to move to the lighting of the lamp and the invocation. I would request all the dignitaries on the dais to kindly come forward to light the lamp. will now request the President of the Regional Committee of Indian National Health Federation and Academy of Anthropologists to kindly deliver the welcome address.
Good morning to everybody. I, on behalf of Guwahati Regional Committee of INCA and Faculty of Humanity and Social Sciences, Assam University, welcome you all. On behalf, it is my pleasure to mention all the participants today for the 2-day international seminar. First, I welcome our Chancellor, Sir, Dr. and Dr. In spite of his busy schedule, he is coming here to inspire us. We are very thankful to him. I welcome him, sir. I welcome our guest of honor, A.K. Sir. He is the President of Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropology and Vice Chancellor of North Odisha University. I welcome him, sir. I welcome our Vice Chancellor, Sir, of Assam University, Professor N.C. Kalundar, to be here today in our midst. Thank you, welcome, sir, and thank you. We also welcome our pro-visitor to be with us, and I welcome our Dean of Studies, Madam Professor Vandana Madam. I welcome you all. I welcome all the eminent dignitaries, speakers, and guests from all over the country and abroad, and from different walks of life. I welcome Dr. Dispur from Anthropological Survey of India, because he is the main person, because he, with his institute, we have our financial assistance to organize this seminar. I really thank you all to have come here to share your knowledge and experience with the academic community of Downtown University and other universities. There will be plenty of knowledge enhancing activities, knowledge of exchange activities, debates, public speaking symposiums for students and esteemed members of our chairpersons. It is expected that the main outcome of this seminar will be immense with regard national, international impact for the education system and social system. Anthropology has long been concerned with social and cultural science. During World War II, anthropologists involved themselves in development planning, like how to foster economic development and social change in low-income countries. Anthropologists study the population of their heritage. They view culture generally as human adaptation to ecology. Development planning does not take place with a social data. Sustainable development is a process of social and economic well-being. The socio-economic and cultural environment do affect development, planning, and its implementation in any population. Development anthropology has begun to achieve a potential in terms of its acceptance. The participation of anthropologists in development work seems destined to increase and to prove mutually beneficial for both development and anthropology. We are very happy to announce that altogether more than 54 papers will be presented in the seminar. We hope the seminar will be a fruitful one. The crux of seminar will be the use of digital technologies such as artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality. We hope that this two-day seminar would help students and academic community to expand their mental horizon and help the Indian education system adopt the best of the education system across the world. In this regard, I would like to extend my deepest sense of gratitude and heartfelt thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor N.C. Talukdar, and Dean of Studies, Professor Vandana Datta, for inspiring me to organize this eventful and valuable seminar. I welcome our guest speakers, Professor Helman from Vienna and Professor Kamal Pasha from Dhaka, Bangladesh. Again, I welcome you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Borwa. We have among us as the guest of honor of today's inaugural program, the Chancellor of Assam University, Dr. Narendra Dr. And EMT specialist by profession, is the Chairman and Managing Director of Downtown Hospitals Limited and the Chairman of Assam Downtown Charity Trust. We welcome you, sir, to present your address.
I know this girl at Kapu. She's my neighbor, and I have to give her lift to school. Yes. She's my daughter.
Yes, I remember those days.
What color do you
This is the national.
Your professor? Bharti, because that. Okay, it's a very nice prayer. Means so many. President Dr. Basa meeting here. I love with maybe after Assam master. I want so many times here. Given up with my mother-in-law, with not my father. So thank you very much for coming. And all the dignitaries are there. The anthropology. It's a my subject in EMG. I am a doctor. But I have to love anthropology. Why not? Because I am married an anthropologist. But not only that, actually, in my childhood, I used to read a lot of novels. Dispur, and so many other things. There is a character, Vandana, in one book of Chandrapur. Dispur was the hero, his brother was so Dispur, Vandana's sister of Dispur or his wife, I don't know. So Dispur developed some sort of not that relationship like we have today, but it was a very good, they were conversing. I enjoyed that conversing. That so big, I still remember. So that was in my childhood when I was in class 6. And Vandana was the sister-in-law of Dispur. So I thought I can get a sister-in-law after my marriage. But Vandana was the youngest. I married her about 50 years back. You know that? 50 years. We celebrated our birthday living. So, but the good thing is, after the 50 years, good thing is that after she joined the cotton college, I have so many sisters. So many. Did not call me here, she called me Sar. Why? Hindu. And Manu is not there. You're not in there. Who else? Rani, I know. Rani is also called me different. But she became professor in the university. So that's the most important thing I have heard. I do not have in reality any system, but I have so many situations with common purpose. They even journalists today also follow children. So obviously I have to come. I am more a CMD than chancellor. I don't have much work here. Except sometimes when there is meeting I come and visit. But as CMD I had a corona, you were asking me. I suffered for almost 3 months. At my age, obviously, 3 months is quite long, but I recovered. And he was asking me, are you sick patient? Yes, so that was my profession. I was a sick patient at one time, 98 days. 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 30 rupees, went up to 60, 70, and now it's 500. So that money we came up with downtown university supposed to use loans. He was asking why, how come the doctor is started to that's actually by not by choice, by chance. Then a big story I will not tell. So I'm very happy that you are all here, but I do not know anything about anthropology. I know if you are ask me to give a lecture on EMT, definitely I can continue. So I am very happy. Professor Basai is here. I am making today for the first time, and I am going to meet him again. You know this, sir. I like research. Truly I like. So I am very grateful to all of you for inviting me and allowing me to speak. Professor Chandrapur. I know her couple. That is sorry, Professor, did not come to her. Our mother was brother in Dispur. Mother was in Dispur. That day I saw her as a baby. I saw finally that she did not come to us. That's a complete complaint against a neighbor. And it's tough.
Yes.
So thank you so much for inviting me. I have to leave. In Pesita, there is a big interview. Our city officer became a sub-inspector of police. And I asked him how much money he has, sir, nothing. So that is the greatest news for me. I am so happy. He is tall, handsome guy. He has left. Security officer. He got police sub-inspector. Thanks to him. Well, he did not pay a single money. So we are going to have some interview of security officers today, and then maybe one or two cases are there. So I shall take what we call it, leave. Whatever Kapu says.
So, consider only address, which I'm sure has touched the hearts of all anthropologists present here. But we understand your time constraint, but before you leave, sir, we would like you to release our souvenirs, which have been prepared for the webinar today, and the newsletter of the Legal Committee of India. So we can request you to kindly release the room.
Please forgive me.
You all understand it. Thank you for it. Thank you very much for your presence, sir. And it is really kind of you to have spared us this moment. We are really, really grateful for this. We will now move on to the end by the chief guest, the Vice Chancellor of Assam Downtown University, Professor Narayan Chandrapur. He was a former Canadian Commonwealth Fellow and presently the Vice Chancellor of Assam Downtown University. A researcher in the area of rhizosphere microbiology and sustainable agriculture. He had also served as the Director of Institute of Advanced Study in Science and Technology, PhD, Government of India. Sir, we request you to deliver your address. Thank you.
Namaskar and good morning to you all. Honorable Chancellor of Assam Downtown University, Dr. Anthropology, very distinguished professor and subject matter specialist of this seminar, Professor K.K. Barsa. He is also the chairman of Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropology, and currently is also serving as Vice Chancellor of Maharaja Sri Ramchandra Manjur University. Professor Barna, Professor Tilatama Borwa, and also we have a few very distinguished anthropologists, very renowned professor of the country who started in Guwahati University, Dr. Virendra Kumar Bedi, Dr. Panikhaiti, and all other distinguished participants, speakers of this seminar, my colleagues at Assam Downtown University, students, research scholars. At the outset, I, on behalf of the entire AdtU fraternity, would like to extend a very warm welcome to Assam Downtown University. And at the same rate, I also want to thank the Guwahati regional chapter of INCA for choosing Assam Downtown University as venue to host to organize this seminar here in the university. In a short while from now, Professor K.K. Barsa, Chairman of INCA, will give his valuable address relevant to the team. As our Honorable Chancellor said, he is not a person from the field of anthropology. Same is the case with me. I am a science student, still do specialize in microbiology, some research on milk, curriculum model based drug discovery. So I am not at all adequate to speak much on the topic. But just I want to, for the interest of the students, I just want to draw attention of the students particularly. About 35 years ago, I met a scientist. He was serving as head of the Department of Electrical Engineering in University of Saskatchewan, after the Canadian University, where I was pursuing my PhD. Like, I happen to know his qualification. He was a graduate of history with specialization in anthropology. And he did his master in computer science. Then again, he moved his PhD, he did in electrical engineering. There was some kind of partial, I must say, concern because we treat anthropology, history as a subject in the field of humanity or social science. But he did PhD and master in computer science, PhD in electrical engineering, something it always kept like it's kind of a mystery for me. But when this national education policy came, like a big document was released, and we all now by now know what that big document contains about our future education policy, what we are going to say. So this national education policy, if I say briefly, it doesn't recognize any boundary of knowledge. A history person can study science, can study even medical science. A history person can also do medical science. That's the kind of thing. Take it in extreme. Why perhaps this has happened? This last 700-800 years, if I might take the Oxford University, the beginning of modern knowledge was took place, like a 700-800 year history. So much knowledge is accumulated in every field, science, art. Now it is very difficult to for understanding the human behavior. I think as the anthropology student, if I ask him or her to define, he'll say he or she will say anthropology is a subject of society, culture, and development. But it will give a skill to, it is also a subject which deals with physical and psychological development and growth issues. That's all related to human or man. Now, for students, I want to say that today, what this world of human promise is good for peace, harmony, and a sustainable world. Your chapter secretary mentioned about the anthropologist has to deal or address the problem of ecology. The human society development, our peace and harmony is all linked up with what changes we have brought to this world. And what next, where this human being is going to go. I think the anthropology is has a much better perspective as which the people of the discipline is dealing with. And I'm sure in this particular conference also there is development in the field of anthropology will discuss. Before I conclude, I brought 3 books for the young people to draw your attention. That's something very, very exciting. It's a book called Homo Deus. This is a book called Sapiens, same author. And some of you may already know 20 lessons from the 21st century. All the students of anthropology must go through these 3 books. He is a history specialist, but he knows science, he knows genetics, he knows everything. He's a professor in Hebrew University of Jerusalem. He did his PhD from USA. Google Noah Harari. If you read this book, you'll find the unity of knowledge. What we are concerned today, where is Homo sapiens is going to go in the next century. He writes a book called Homo Deus. I think Homo Deus, the word, students, you can go to the meaning of the word Deus. So next evolution, human being evolved from Homo erectus, Homo habilis, we become Homo sapiens, man with wisdom. Now that Homo sapiens, wisdom. Now Homo Deus, what does that mean? What is our next evolution? Next evolution is human beings are going to be God. Our next evolution is definitely gaining super consciousness, and that will be the day. Perhaps what we are talking about, peace, development of the society, harmony. I think next development and human being causes that. People say, or the saying to religious people say that we are only a miniature version of God. So when we say God, what is the concept? But God means the knower of everything. He is the extreme bliss. He is the source of happiness, that he himself remains ever happy. Now, this movement, the next evolution is we are going to evolve to the level of God. This is what book, in fact, is the essence of the homogeneous human. So, anthropology discipline has a much bigger role to play for human civilization, peace and happiness, and sustainability. We talk about our future is really the future of this art is jeopardized, but we don't have to worry because human being is so powerful. As I said, it said we are made in the image of the God. So we'll save it and we'll also be peaceful. We'll be happy. Like we will have evolution to the next level. With these words, I wish the success of this conference, and this conference will bring new knowledge for the benefit of the mankind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your words. I think sir has very rightly pointed out about the unity of knowledge and how anthropology can play a part in the role of solution of as students of anthropology, what can be done. Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightening words. We now have the address by Dean of Studies, Assam University, Dr. Mandela Doctor, who is formerly Professor and Head Department of Anthropology, Government College, and currently the Director of Downtown Hospitals Limited and Dean of Studies, Assam University. Ma'am, please just to deliver your.
Very good morning to all of you. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Assam University, and our beloved Panikhaiti Master of Vice Chancellor, who has come all the way to grace this occasion. But I am really, really grateful. I think in their future also we will come and guide. And before Kado, who has come here all the way from Kolkata, and Avida, Rani, and really other senior members in the field of anthropology, and some of the students and participants of this seminar. Today I am really happy and glad to welcome all of you as the Dean of Studies of Assam University. I think in their future also we will come forward and we will join hands and work together for the development of the subject. Today I am little bit nostalgic and very much remembering some of our former teachers in the field of anthropology. I would like to name some and pay my homage to all of you. At the very outset, I would like to name late Professor M. Professor Subon Mohan Sir, Ananda Mohan Sir, Professor Mujumdar Sir, Yawala Udizar Sir, and Sabha Mujumdar Sir from Guwahati University, and from other colleges. So, late Professor Mahendra Khalil Sir, were our former head, and Professor Goswami Sir, and Hari Prasad Sir, And I would like to pay homage from my heart, and may I request all of you to stand for 1 minute and pay homage to them so that before this goes. Guru, 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 Shashat, Param Brahma, Tashmai Shri Gurue Namaha. Thank you. They are guidance, and I could not be able to be able to do already, and I am standing with we don't have to come down and being able to do the work already. Today, I would like to make a message to all present here in the okay? All of you know that Northeastern text is very much rich in our culture. We are very much rich in our culture, music, textilism, society, environment. But I have a feeling in my mind that we are not doing anything else because some areas are disturbed. So it is our absolute duty as a student organization to do some work, to give interviews and to do some work because some of our cultural aspects are only part of extinction. It is our primary duty to preserve them. So I would like to make a message to all of you. Whatever you can, you please try to do something and try to document it and publicize it and pass on the message to the masses so that they can know. It is true that culture always changes. Culture begins at home and will begins at home, but we are sent to different institutions for growth. But as a student, it is our duty to develop and to maintain the heritage and preserving the originality of those cultural in our life. This is my appeal to honourable wisdom life honor, which is keyword. I would like to complete. Sarve Shanti, Sarve Shanti Nirmaya, Sarve Satyam Shanti, Mahavashi, Sukama, Sukama. Thank you.
I think we should all thank her for initiating the tribute to our respected teachers, our teachers, and it was not just a significant contribution to anthropology, but to the region as well, internationally. We will now move on to the keynote address by Professor Kishore K. Basna, who is the chairman of the Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropology. He is also currently Vice Chancellor of Maharaja Sri Ramchandra Anjandev University in Moripara, Orissa, a Tagore National Fellow of the Ministry of Culture, Government of India, was also formerly the head of the Department of Anthropology in Utkal University. So before the address, the Assam National University would like to felicitate you with their token of your appreciation for your visit. So I request the Assam National University to kindly offer the felicitation. The Vice Chancellor of Assam National University, Professor Narayan Chandrapur, to felicitate Professor K.K. Basa. Yes, sir. So, Dr. Dispur, the Assam National University would also like to felicitate Dr. Dispur, Research Associate of Anthropological Survey of India, and I request Professor Wonderland Doctor to do the kind of honors. We have to learn. We are committed. So the stage is yours now for the next. Yes.
Respected Chancellor in absentia, Dr. Renan Doctor, respected Vice Chancellor, Professor Talukdar, respected Pro Vice Chancellor in absentia, respected Dean, Madam Professor Vandana Doctor, President of the Guwahati Committee of Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropologists, Professor Tilokama Baudua, Secretary Madam Nilokor Jasmine, my dear colleagues from both Guwahati University and Cotton University, formerly Cotton College, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great pleasure and privilege to be invited to this international seminar on development and change, role of anthropology and elite disciplines. On behalf of Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropologists, I convey my deep sense of gratitude to the Assam Downtown University, who have collaborated with the Guwahati Committee of INCA for this wonderful seminar. I must say that the Guwahati unit of INCA is the most active and dynamic unit of all the regional centers of this country. So I convey my deep sense of gratitude to all my colleagues in anthropology associated with the Guwahati Center. I think we were very interesting in the beginning. The Chancellor, in a very informal manner, spoke about his personal involvement in anthropology. And although he spoke in a very informal manner, he touched one of the most fundamental aspects of social anthropology, that is kinship. The Vice Chancellor, in his brief but very interesting deliberation, spoke about the unity of knowledge. And Madam Doctor, the Dean, highlighted the importance of preservation of cultural heritage. Now, three of them have emphasized three different aspects of anthropology, which I think need serious attention and deliberation. Today, I'll be speaking on this theme, basically the theme of your conference. But basically, my purpose would be to bring the seminal aspects of anthropology, and that is culture. Culture is the hallmark of anthropology. And when we talk of development, when we talk of change, how things change and how things develop. And an anthropologist keeps the perspective of development from the vantage point of culture. For the benefit of students, before coming to the slide, for the benefit of students, anthropology developed in a colonial context, because when the colonial powers, maybe the British, French, the Europeans, they established their colonies in Asia and Africa. They wanted to know the culture of various communities, because they could very well realize that unless and until they understand the culture of different communities, they cannot effectively rule over them. Therefore, anthropology developed as a colonial construct, and anthropology has been criticized as a subject which gives legitimacy to the colonial rule. And therefore, some radical thinkers say that this burden of anthropology as a colonial construct has overruled other aspects of anthropology. But practitioners like us, we believe that colonial anthropology and its post-colonial engagements are two radically different aspects, which all of us have to bear it in mind. Now, anthropology, when I said developed from a colonial context, in a post-colonial situation, when the nation states grew and the democracy was very fragile in Asia and Africa, emphasis on cultural diversity and national integration became very much an important aspect of almost all nascent democracies in Asia and Africa. And there, anthropology played a very important role in nation building by highlighting these small communities and their role in nation building as well. In the 70s and 80s, when post-colonial theory developed in literature, it also had an impact on anthropology. And what is the essence of post-colonial theory? Now, post-colonial theory contextualized the colonial discourse and colonial stereotypes, and also interrogated the colonial discourse. For example, all of you must be very familiar with the book by Hammond called The Naked Naga. Now, when somebody is
having a provocative title like the Naked Naga. Mind you, his term of reference is not India when he wrote that book. His term of reference is the Western. Now, in a 21st century scenario, when somebody from the Naga communities is trying to understand why it was written like this, so what that scholar is trying to contextualize under in which intellectual discourse this concept came, and then he or she is interrogating or challenging that the kind of description you have made of us is incomplete and it is to a certain extent irrelevant, because you have not been able to capture the thrust of our culture. Otherwise, you would not have used such kind of terms. So this is post-colonial discourse where autoethnography is playing an important role. Now, what is the autoethnography? See, ethnography was always the study of the other. A Britisher, white man coming to Odisha or to Northeast to study different communities. So it is, for him, the community is the other. It's not his own community that he is studying. But now, autoethnography is emerging in a big way, and especially in the Northeast. Especially in the Northeast, the researchers from their own communities are studying their own culture, and they are questioning the stereotypical colonial discourse which has been perpetuated by colonial scholars. Now, this is the background. I'm talking of anthropology, which is not in forward, but now, first slide, please. Now, when we talk of development, let us say, now there are different meanings of development. Okay. The question, what is development, is often confused with what is intended by development. The first question relates to development as an immanent process, which creates the new by destroying the old. The way, they're like a plant grows. But the second question, development is not considered as immanent and cyclical, but rather it represents the potential and possibility for a linear movement of human improvement. Now, both countries in the third world show many examples of development as an intent. Scales and Huggins provide various meanings of development. Firstly, whether capitalists or Marxists, development theorists and policymakers have identified development with material progress and improved living standards. But there is a debate. How best these goals are achieved? Who should be the primary beneficiaries? And who or what stands in the way of development? Another aspect is development is closely related to broader definition of modernization as a process of economic and social change that emerged from Europe and expanded from there to the rest of the world. And thirdly, development cannot be conceived without a notion of its opposite, which is it could be underdevelopment or even non-development. Now, the term sustainable development, which has been, I think, highlighted by Madam Tilotuma in her inaugural address, this is a challenge. This is a challenge to the conventional form of development. In conventional approaches, see development as simply modernization of the globe along Western lines. Development means, industrialization. It is better with the cars or better living standards, that kind of thing. One could say that the concern for sustainability can be traced back to Malthus. This is 1766, not 1834. So, Malthus, he was thinking also some kind of sustainability. And also William Stanley Devon and other 18th and 19th century thinkers. Because, you see, when the industrial revolution was taking place, obviously there was extraction of sort of resources. So, even at beginning of 19th century or late 18th century and early 19th century, some people were thinking about sustainability, but they did not pursue it further. It was not until 1960s and the 70s that a significant segment of public opinion expressed unease. The term sustainable development came into the public in 1980 when the International Union for the Conservation of Natural Resources presented the World Conservation Strategy. It aimed at, this is very important, achieving sustainable development through conservation of living resources. See, until 1980, what was development? It was a growth-centric approach towards development. Any country whose growth rate is high, so that is more developed. That was the perception. The term sustainable development implied that its focus was rather limited, primarily addressing ecological sustainability as opposed to linking sustainability to wider social and economic issues. So, until the emergence of sustainable development, the emphasis was more on economic growth. But with the concept of sustainable development, ecology also came in. So it is not merely economy, it is both economy and ecology. The links between the social, economic, and ecological dimension of development were explicitly addressed in the report Our Common Future, published by the World Commission on Environment and Development in 1987. And London Committee Report 1987 says that sustainable development is development that meets the needs of present, this is very important, that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So it is not merely you are concerned with the present, you have to be concerned with the needs of your successive generation. Now, anthropology, as I said, the hallmark of anthropology as a discipline is related to culture. Therefore, we must try to understand how does culture matter and what is the meaning of culture. David Land in 2000 stated, and I quote, "Make whoever was right." If we learn anything from the history of economic development, it is that culture makes all the difference. So although economists did not emphasize much on culture, but gradually people were sort of coming to the conclusion that culture is making a very important role, and that culture which is making the difference, all the difference which is more developed, which is less developed. Raymond Williams, he was a very well-known sort of literary critic of English literature. For him, culture is one of the 2 or 3 most complicated words in the English language. For him, culture is not a very simple term. So many adjectives are used as a qualifier for the noun culture, such as popular culture, high culture, youth culture, consumer culture, global culture, culture class, etc., multicultural. There's also in media, politics, and the everyday life. It is rather taken for granted. We assume, we take the term culture for granted. Guwahati Singh, who is a very eminent sociologist, he defined culture like this. Culture is a unique human quality as giving meaning to our relationship with the other, manifesting in the technological, mental, moral, social, aesthetic, and spiritual achievements of humankind. Besides, it defines the quality of social change as an indicator, as a core that acts as a filter or a moderator to outsider forces of cultural contact and change, and is a large measure of resilience by selective adaptation to outside cultural forces. See, the point is culture is not a static, culture is a dynamic concept. So, therefore, it is not that there will be certain aspects which are continuing. Therefore, in any social science, 2 terms are very important: continuity and change. Whether how much a society is continuing, elements of culture is continuing, and there is another one is how much change has come in. Now, the word culture it's a very long and involved history. Robert Booker says that there are 5 ways in which culture has been defined. The first is cultivating land, crops, and animals. That is also culture. Cultivation of mind, art, and civilization. Process of social development. Meanings, values, ways of life. Practices which produce meaning. Therefore, he says that, that's a very involved history, how the connotation of the term culture has undergone change in course of time. For example, the first definition of culture, they point to the culture of nature. This was by 17th and 18th centuries extended to the humans, implying cultivation of the human mind as well as the fields of plant. The meaning of culture was in the domain of nature, in the domain of plant, this kind of thing. But subsequently, it is coming to the refinement of the exclusive preserve of aristocracy. While arts and scholarship were designated as culture, other activities like manual labor, trade, and manufacturing were seen as uncultured. Such type of a hierarchical notion of culture. So gradually, culture became a hierarchical concept. So such type of a hierarchical notion of culture as the lifestyle of an elite grew into a sense of culture as the pursuit of perfection in the 19th century. 19th century, that is the time of the sort of industrial revolution is in its peak, the rise of middle class, rise of bourgeoisie. So therefore, culture as a kind of refinement is becoming the concept for an elite. The intellectual format of the Enlightenment, throwing new ways of thinking about human societies on the basis of scientific knowledge, led to a shift from a religious understanding of a society in terms of a decline from an original God-given innocence to secular understanding of human history, ranking human societies on a scale from primitive to modern. See, what was happening was, before Enlightenment, before Renaissance, everything was in terms of divine origin. Any explanation that was taken place is divinely ordered. But with the emergence of Renaissance and Enlightenment, gradually there was more emphasis on the ability of the human species. Therefore, people are not happy with that, this is happening, this is the desire of God. People are not happy with that. That they were trying to explain by other means, and where culture also was coming as a mode of explanation. Thus, by 19th century, culture was defined more explicitly as the acquisition of civilization and was conceived as a process of social development. While the hierarchical notion of culture was being established by mid-19th century, anthropology as a discipline also was growing. Because as I said, anthropology was growing basically in the 19th century colonial context. Especially as a means of understanding the culture of colonies or an effective rule over them. I already discussed that. And in anthropology, culture became a key concept, and the most well-known definition of culture, which all of us know, in 19th century was given by E.B. Tyler, and all of us know culture is that complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, law, morals, customs, and any other capabilities and habits. This is all right, but then most important is acquired by man as a member of society. These are the traits that are not, you do not inherit, you do not get it when you are born. You acquire them as a member of the society. Now, there are two main anthropological definitions of culture which are widely influential in social sciences generally. In the first case, culture is defined as meanings, values, and ways of life of a particular group, and is primarily concerned with what culture is. In the second case, culture is defined as the social practices which produce meaning, and it is related to the issue of what culture does or how it does it rather than what it is. Case and Hagi also discuss these two types of anthropological definitions precisely, and they refer primarily to two main approaches to the concept of culture. The first is functionalism, and the second is interactionism. For the first definition, that is culture defined as the meanings, values, and ways of life. Basing primarily on Emile Durkheim, the well-known sociologist, The functionalist approach emphasizes the shared and normative nature of culture and its function for integrating the individuals into groups. Thus, culture is a design for living, an aspect of the social structure, ensuring the cohesive and continuity of the society itself. Based on the work of Max Weber in the interactionist approach, emphasis is put on how cultural meanings, values, and ways of life is formed out of interaction between individuals and society. For example, Clifford Geertz, the most well-known exponent of the approach in contemporary times, said, and I quote, "Believing with Max Weber that man is an animal suspended in webs of significance, he himself has spun, I take culture to those webs and the analysis of it to be therefore not experimental science in search of law, but an interactive one in search of it." So this he is giving more emphasis on the interactionist approach of culture. In the definition of culture as the social practices which produce meanings, emphasis is put on the symbolic nature of culture, in which, with a focus on the symbols, rituals, activities involved in the construction of everyday social reality. The main intellectual tradition in this is structural, in which words, drawings, movies, material objects, etc., function as signs or symbols, which enable communication between social actors. As Bokov pointed out, when a group shares a culture, it shares a common set of meanings, which are constructed and exchanged through the practice of using language. Now, Levi-Strauss, as you know, is the most important authority on structuralism. One could unravel the underlying roots of structure of a culture by analyzing these language or science systems. As you know, Levi-Strauss introduced the concept from linguistics, the concept of binary opposition. And then he said, by understanding the studying of the myths, he tried to get these binary oppositions and trying to understand the structure of culture from a deeper study of the myths. There are some criticism of the anthropological definition of culture. On the ground that such definitions view culture as a discrete bounded entity consisting of a particular set of structure of social relations, practices, and symbolic systems which hold a cohesive unity for a group. You know, the anthropological definition of culture is as a bounded, it is very bounded. That is the criticism. Such depiction is unable to grasp the dynamic qualities of cultural flows in the constant search for the real or authentic other. You know, the concept of diaspora, for example. I mean, if you are talking of Assamese culture, let us say, when we say that Assamese culture, we have a frame in our mind that, people who are living in the state of Assam, but then Assamese are in the United States, Assamese are in UK, in various parts of the globe. So can you confine it to the boundary, to a boundary? So that is the criticism of the traditional concept of culture in anthropology. Such approach ignores the broader global context. As Kissing points out, dreadlocks, Bob Marley, and Kung Fu movies are as much part of Solomon Island's contemporary culture as ancestral religion, magic, and ritual. You see how, because Kissing is here emphasizing on the changes that have been brought in the Solomon Island. When you are, when you think of Solomon Island, you will be always thinking of their ancestral relationship, the magic, ritual, all these things. But then he says, well, these are important, no doubt. But then this dreadlocks, Bob Marley, and the Kung Fu movies, the Kung Fu American movies, they are also there in Solomon Island. So they are also as part of contemporary culture as ancestral religion, magic, and ritual. Now, there are some anthropologists who are talking the global cultural context. For example, Chris Dawson, he talks of global culture. Now, global culture has a number of different elements. A series of old juxtapositions and mixing of items or habits derived from individual cultures. A global event like Salman Rushdie affair. Those of you people, the young boys and girls might not be knowing about Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie wrote a book called Satanic Verses, which at the time led to a lot of controversy. Mass movements of people from their places of origin, diaspora I was talking of, and buying and selling of transnational products. This is, he thinks these are part of what he called global culture. Now, as I was mentioning to you, the anthropologists always try to link development with culture, because they think that unless and until we link culture with development, no worthwhile development can take place. So there are certain points of contact. Case and Haggis, they emphasize four issues. First, culture is deeply embedded in visions of development. Second, there is the equation of development with modernization and anthropology with culture. Third, modernization is not only equated with development, it is also defined as a right culture. And fourth, neither culture nor development can be understood without the other, since development is not only an amalgam of process and change, but also a system of knowledge and power which produces and justifies it. Now, outlining a history of research of the interrelationship between culture and development, Samuel Huntington said, much attention was paid during 1940s and 1950s to culture as a crucial element in understanding societies, analyzing differences among them, and explaining their economic and political development. However, work on culture in academic community declined dramatically in the 1960s and 70s. In the 1980s, interest in culture as an explanatory variable began to revive. The most prominent and most controversial early contribution to this revival was written by Lawrence Harrison, whose book Underdevelopment is a State of Mind, the Latin American Case, that was published in 1985, that generated a storm of protest from economic experts from Latin America and intellectuals in Latin America. Increasingly, social scientists turned to cultural factors to explain modernization, political democratization, military strategy, the behavior of ethnic groups, the alignments, and the antagonism among the countries. During the 1990s, the battle has been joined by those who see culture as a major but not the only influence, social, political, and economic behavior, and those who adhere to universal explanations, such as devotees of material self-interest among economists, of rational choice among political scientists, and of neo-realism among scholars of international relations. So there's a debate. Some people, anthropologists are emphasizing more on culture, but then other political science historians and scholars of international relations are emphasizing on different others. Huntington further observed, if culture includes everything, it explains nothing. Hence, he defined culture in purely subjective terms as the values, attitudes, beliefs, orientations, and underlying assumptions prevalent among people in a society. And the issue is how culture in the subjective sense affects the extent to which and the ways in which societies achieve or fail to achieve progress in economic development and political democratization. Huntington summed up by stating the following. In a 1992 study of the relationship between culture and development, Robert Klitgard posed the question, if culture is important and people have studied culture for a century ago, why don't we have well-developed theories, practical guidelines, close professional links between those who study culture and those who make and manage development policy? The central purpose we hope to undertake is to develop the theories, elaborate the guidelines, and foster the links between scholars and practitioners that will foster the cultural conditions that enhance human progress. He's saying that if we are thinking that culture is so much important in development, and if more than 100 years people have worked on culture, I think enough has not been done. He says that we have to theorize the relationship between culture and development. Discussing the linkage between culture and development, Harrison concluded in his introduction to the book Culture Matters. And I quote, the role of cultural values and attitudes as obstacles to or facilitators of progress has been largely ignored by government and agencies. Integrating value and attitude change into development policies, planning and programming is, I believe, a promising way to assure that in the next 50 years, that the world does not relieve the poverty and injustice that most poor countries and under-achieving ethnic groups have been mired in during the past half century. Thus, there is an increasing consciousness among the social scientists about the important link between culture and development. However, Justice Guwahati, a very brilliant economist, in his book In Defense of Globalization, provided a contrast between the economist view and the anthropologist view relating to globalization and indigenous culture. And according to Justice Guwahati, and I quote, that the economist view of the matter is diametrically opposed to that of the anthropologist and the indigenous activists. The former celebrates the integration of these people into the mainstream economy that is itself integrating into the world economy and is distressed when globalization bypasses. The latter, that means the anthropologist, lamenting and would like to delink the indigenous people from the globalization phenomenon. In the end, the overwhelming source of difference lies in the fact that economists accept and indeed invite change. Mind you, this is making a serious criticism against anthropology. Economists accept and indeed invite change, whereas anthropologists do not. This is what Justice Guwahati in his book In Defense of Globalization, which is a very celebrated book otherwise. But I make a critic here because I think Guwahati is taking a very narrow view of anthropology. You see, anthropologists are not anti-change. Anthropologists are not trying to romanticize the continuance of indigenous cultures or tribal culture. Anthropologists are concerned with the trend and trajectory of it. They are not opposed to change. I know there is a difference. There is a difference. Opposing change is one thing, but being concerned with the trend and trajectory and interrogating the kind of change that is imposed on the local communities is the kind of the approach that anthropologists are following. Therefore, I don't agree with Justice Guwahati that anthropologists are opposed to change. Anthropologists are not opposed to change. Anthropologists are concerned with the trend and trajectory of the changes that are being imposed on the local communities. Now, with this, let me come back. No, I will give towards the example of how you see different aspects of culture are important in sort of thinking of sustainable development. The first example is traditional knowledge system. Traditional knowledge is the information that people in a given community based on experience and adaptation to local culture and environment have developed over time and continue to develop. It is used to sustain the community and its culture and to maintain the genetic resources necessary for the continued survival of the community. There are certain general features of traditional knowledge. Most of you know it is collective in nature and is often considered the property of the entire community. It is transmitted through specific cultural and traditional exchange mechanisms and often to only select few people within a community. But then the term traditional does not imply that the knowledge is old or untechnical in nature. It is traditional because it is created in a manner that reflects the tradition of the community. Therefore, not relating to the nature of the knowledge itself, but to the way in which the knowledge is created, preserved, and disseminated. It is basically through oral tradition that the traditional knowledge system is continuing. There are some examples of traditional knowledge: the use of plow in Thailand for the treatment of ulcer, the use of Udia cactus by Bushman in Africa to stave off hunger, the use of turmeric in India for wound healing, the use of ayahuasca in the Amazon basin for sacred religious and healing purposes, and with the discovery of the potentially anti-cancer agents in plants and a rapidly growing herbal remedies market, indigenous knowledge of the cultivation and application of the genetic resources is being exploited at a very alarming rate. It has been estimated that the world sales of medicine alone was $30 billion in 2000. So therefore, the traditional knowledge systems of the plant, for example, is gaining ground very fast. The another thing is traditional water management. When we talk about water management, we say that unless there are big dams, irrigation cannot take place. If you want to enhance the productivity of land, you have to go for construction of huge dams. But I think traditional water management is an area where anthropologists are also emphasizing. It has been hypothesized that if at all there would be a third world war, it would be related to what? Talking about the inaccessible nature of both of the water sources, Balance Chakraborty provided very interesting statistics with regard to water. For example, although 3/4 of the Earth's planet is clouded in water, 97% of this water is saline, locked in ocean, and 77% of the water in the 3% land is frozen in polar ice cap. Only 1% of the remaining 23% groundwater is accessible to lakes, rivers, and streams, while 22% goes west in the absence of proper rainwater harvesting approach. Besides pollution and the steadily going down of the water table level are some other important problems. The major constraints in achieving the goals of sustainable development of water resources, according to Vijay Paranjape, are the following. First is ignorance about and neglect of the traditional principles of river basin development, a disregard toward the socially determined priorities in water use, a transgression of the ecological philosophy and principles of surface and groundwater management, a lack of careful analysis of the traditional systems of water rights, and a reluctance to consider the merits of some traditions which may be relevant in future as principles, the overemphasis on large and negative projects by third world governments. Now, Chakraborty gives a number of examples of the continuing traditions and technologies with regard to water management in India. These are the different terms used in different parts of the country as far as traditional water management is concerned. Chakraborty further points out that traditional water harvesting strategies had affected an integration of storm and flood water regulation, wastewater collection, drinking water supply, and micro-irrigation. These were location-specific, flow-efficient, gravitation-based, inexpensive, and non-extractive methods of harvesting the extremely limited freshwater supply accessible to human beings. So it's a very sustainable use of water management. Such traditional water management strategies are not only ecologically viable, but also avoid the problems of mega dams, such the degradation of wetlands and water quality, siltation and waterlogging, etc. The other example is sacred grove. This is grove. This is wrongly spelled. Because of the steady erosion of forest and overutilization of forest resources, resulting in ecological degradation, there has been an upsurge among ecologists to take recourse to, among other things, traditional mode of conserving biodiversity, and sacred grove is a good example of that. Sacred groves are known as the patterns of God, consisting of natural vegetation of the locality and associated supernatural powers. In India, there are different terms for sacred groves in different parts of the country. There is Chandrapur in Maharashtra, Assam, in Jharkhand and Dispur, Guwahati in Assam, like that. Now, sacred groves are basically segments of landscape containing vegetation and other forms of life, geographical features that are delineated and protected by human society. They've got great biological and ecological value. The biological value involves such groves are particularly diverse in species of trees and associated species, namely climbers, epiphytes, birds, butterflies, and other insects, act as a nursery or storehouse of many of the local Ayurvedic, tribal, and folk medicines. Also, great silvicultural interest as indicators of the natural productivity of the region. As far as the ecological aspect is concerned, ecological values is concerned, almost all of them contain water in the form of springs, ponds, lakes, streams, and rivers. As an ecosystem, the environmental significance lies in their important role in soil and water conservation, besides preserving the rich and diverse biological wealth. Thus, preservation of sacred grove is of key importance in maintaining biodiversity, the continuity of evolutionary process, and the comprehensive health of the landscape, since they provide greater benefits than their small size would otherwise indicate. Now, as you know, in Northeast, we have got a very rich tradition of sacred groves. I think those of you who have gone to Moklam in Meghalaya, very extensive area of sacred groves. Now, I'm towards the conclusion. There is a need to deconstruct the concept of development using conventional sense. I mean, there is a Mahaputra has written a book called Development for Whom. Now, development from below is the hallmark of anthropological discourse on development. We find find that mega projects, whether for irrigation, hydroelectricity, industrialization, results in displacement, bringing a traumatic experience for various sections of people. Hence, adequate compensation has to be given, not merely in terms of money, but also in terms of actual land. To conclude, one may say that culture should not be perceived to be confined to the domain of art and aesthetics as a means of intellectual appeasement of a cultivated mind, but should be seriously considered as an input in sustainable development, particularly in the third world. Because culture is not a romanticized, endless essence, rather it is also an agent, process, ideologic quest for change. Without the linkage between culture and development, any talk of development would be superfluous and an imposition from the above, which might show a short-term feeling, but will have just as consequence in the long run. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for a patient hearing. Okay, do them more time.
Thank you, Professor Basa, for this illuminating address. We have started with the history of development and anthropology from colonial times to post-colonial literature, and how the shift towards the challenge towards colonial literature, and how culture and development and traditional knowledge systems which serve as mechanisms for sustainable development. So it is very interesting to drop into the relationship between culture, development, and development. Thank you, sir, for your illuminating today. We are actually running behind schedule, sir, so we have to stop here a little bit. Yeah. We also have with us a few retired teachers of anthropology with us. So on behalf of the Indian National Conference chapter of the Indian National Confederation in Academy of Anthropology and Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences from the University, would like to felicitate our retired teacher. We have with us Professor A.M. Ishadali sir, Dr. Ranika Kodir Maido, Dr. Rekha Maido, Rekha Das, and Dr. Andha Das, our president, Tilokrama Bora, and the secretary, the Project Student. Felicitate them at their places with the Kamsa. May I request you to serve this and example.
So hopefully everybody can hear me and see me. Thank you very much for the invitation and my warmest greeting from the capital of Austria, from Vienna. It's still quite early morning here and quite chilly outside. I will. So hopefully you can hear me. Yes. Okay, thank you very much for the invitation.
We are honored by your presence here today.
Yeah, you can hear.
To the end of the inaugural session. So before we conclude, we request the Vice President from the chapter of INCA to offer the vote of thanks. Dr. Guru Begum, Head, Department of Anthropology.
Okay, good morning, everybody. From the capital of Austria, from Vienna. It's a pleasure to be here. Online. Hopefully everybody can hear me. So I will try to share my screen with you. Can you see the screen? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. So hopefully you can hear me as well. I would like to talk today about the integration of human population genomics in biomedical research and healthcare. So it's a quite different topic what you just heard previous from the speaker before. And
hello.
Yes.
Yes. Just in the hello, sir.
Yes.
We are very sorry, but we had been delayed by the inaugural program. We are sorry to delay your lecture by 10 or 15 minutes, sir.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Yes.
Sorry,
okay.
Sir.
Then
we apologize for the delay.
Yeah. No problem.
one thought. Honorable Chief Speaker, Chairman of Indian National Conference. A.K. Basal, sir, guest on guest one. Dean of Studies, University. And present in this session, online as well as offline. I feel honored and privileged to get this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this international seminar on development and change, role of anthropology.
Meeting link to আপনার meeting link to আপনার laptop আছে আমার meeting link to আপনার
convey deep regards of today's event, the Vice Chancellor of Assam Downtown University, I do agree with you, sir, when you say that the lessons and knowledge treasure which lie at the core of the discipline anthropology holds promise of solving many problems of humanity in the modern world.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for your wishes towards this seminar when you hope that the outcome gets a focus in the forthcoming World Anthropology Congress 2023 in Dispur. I thank you, sir, for your presence today. On behalf of the organizing committee, I convey deep regards and hearty thanks to Professor Dispur sir, Chairman of INCA, which is the largest anthropological association of India. Currently being the Vice Chancellor of Maharaja Sri Chandrapur University, Guwahati, Odisha, he has a very busy schedule. But I'm extremely happy to say that he has never declined our invitation to be with us and is always motivating us by his presence. He has always been a morale booster for all of us. Words are not enough to thank you, sir, for your support always rendered to us in carrying forward the activities of Regional Committee of INCA. Thank you, sir, for complimenting us as the most dynamic Regional Committee of INCA. Thank you, sir, for your presence. Our sincere thanks goes to today's guest of honor, Dr. N.M. Datta, sir, in absentia, who is also the founder chancellor of Assam Downtown University. This is indeed an invaluable opportunity for all the researchers when you hope this conference can stir a stimulating environment and become a grandiose success. I thank you, sir, for all your wishes and your presence today. I convey my heartfelt thanks to Dean of Studies, Assam Downtown University, Dr. Vandana Datta ma'am. I really appreciate her confidence and enthusiasm in sparing no effort towards organizing this seminar. I agree with you, ma'am, when you say that this platform brings together the brightest minds from across disciplines for exchanging ideas. I thank you, ma'am, for the immense help from your side and wishing the conference a great success. I express my gratitude to Dr. Dispur from Anthropological Survey of India for his presence today at this occasion too. Always a source of inspiration, who have always stood by us to motivate us at all levels. I feel proud and thank our retired teachers, Dr. A.N.M. Irshad Ali sir, Dr. Rani Kapati ma'am, Dr. Rekha Das ma'am, and Dr. Sandhya Das ma'am, who have spared their time to be with us at this occasion. I am grateful to all of them, sir and madam, from the bottom of my heart and for never letting us down. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I express my gratitude to Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Singh from Assam Downtown University for gracing the today's occasion. Finally, I thank each one of the members of the Guwahati Regional Committee of INCA, the faculties of Humanities and Social Science, the IT cell of the Downtown University, and all the invited dignitaries of this conference for making this event getting started. I, on my personal behalf, wish a grand success to this event. Thank you all once again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, we have come to the end of this inaugural session. We will have a very short 10 minutes break for tea because as we have seen our next lecture, department lecture has already joined. So we will be taking a very short break. So for the invited guests, we are arranging the tea at the boardroom and the students for another participants to be served outside. So can we please have the tea quickly and come back because our department speaker is already waiting for his delivery. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Halmut, can you please start your video?
Yes,
Yeah, thanks.
perfect.
So thanks for you just vision of your that video. But the thing is that we'll let you know,
Okay.
sir. Just give me a minute so that
Yes.
I can request you for that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Of invited lecture. So this will be presented online by Professor Helmut Stachel from the Department of Evolutionary Anthropology, University of Vienna, Austria. And he will be speaking on integration of human population genomics into biomedical research and healthcare. And he will be introduced by my colleague, Dr. Arthur Verman, who is Associate Professor in the Department of Ecology. So I request Professor Arthur.
Let me introduce Professor Helmut Stachel.
Can I start?
Doctor in Human Genetics, Department of Evolutionary and Faculty of Biosciences, University of Vienna, Austria. Sorry. Let me say some words about Professor Helmut. Professor Helmut joined the Department of Evolutionary and Anthropology in 2011 after completing postdoctoral studies at Imperial College London, CR UK, and Max Planck Institute. In 2014, he received his habilitation Vienna recently in Human and Evolutionary Sciences. His main research focuses are human population genetics, natural selection, genetic adaptation, genetics of human autoimmune diseases, population genetics and evolutionary genetics, history of many people, primary hunter-gatherer from Southeast Asia, immunogenetics of natural population. Professor Helmut's research combines dead-based molecular genetic methods, population genetics, human genomics, and bioeconomics. He addressed questions in regard to the basic characteristics of human genomic diversity at different scales and what such variation implies about the human evolutionary path, genetic variability, genetic adaptation, and disease susceptibility. He is also interested in the immunogenetics of natural population. It is with great pleasure that I, on behalf of Guwahati Regional Committee of Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropology, in short INCA, and of Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences at Downtown University, extend an invitation to Professor Helmut to deliver his invited lecture titled Integration of Human Population Genomics into Biomedical Research and Healthcare. So I would like to invite Professor Helmut to deliver.
Okay, thank you very much. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Thank you very much for the invitation for this conference and that I can participate at least online and not coming to India. I'm talking today about the integration of human population genomics in biomedical research and healthcare. And I think this is also quite interesting for anthropological sciences, as anthropological science is quite an interdisciplinary research field. And I will try to give you some insight why I think that population genomics became and will become very important in the future for healthcare and also for anthropological sciences. First of all, I would give you quite a focused view how basically our genome, our genetic heredity is basically shaped by which molecular mechanism. What is basically causing variability between humans. First of all, we need mutation. I know mutation has a negative association, but mutation are important to keep genetic variation in the population, not only in humans, but in all species which we know. The average de novo mutation rate is roughly 1.2 to 1.5, 10 times to the prime of -8 per nucleotide per generation. This translates that everybody of us has roughly 40 to 50 new mutations which are not seen in either of our parents. Interesting is that the mutations are particularly driven by the father, and particularly by the father age. You know, decades before, most people were thinking it's the age of the mother basically which causes some additional mutation in their children, but the scientific evidence show clearly it's the father who contributes most of the mutation in the offspring. Another important process is basically crossing over. So this is basically exchange of DNA material between homolog chromosomes, which happens in the development of the egg and the sperm cells. So it's a very key process to generate additional diversity in addition to mutation. Then epigenetics, maybe one of you did hear about epigenetic modification of our human genome. This is basically purely environmental driven genetic changes which do not change the code of the gene, rather the chemical structure of the genetic material via methylation or some protein modification. In addition, we have so-called non-coding RNA, which do not code for a protein, but have heavily functional role in controlling our genome. And epigenetics is basically environmental driven and responds basically to changes. So it gives our heredity a kind of flexibility to adapt quickly to some environmental conditions. Okay. This is basically how our genome gets its genetic diversity on a molecular level. Now, I talked about population genomics, and some of you might wonder, what is a population? How we define a population? Is Europe a population? Is India a population? And I'm meaning here population in a biological context. And it's not easy to define a population, to be honest. And also, some people might think they belong to this kind of population, not to the other one. Of course, there's also nations, there is ethnicity, tribes, and everything. But genomics or genetics can help to understand or to define a population. But be careful, a population is not a fixed category. It's kind of a fluent concept. And I would like to say we are all admixture. So there is no pure population on this planet. And what you can see on this picture here from a study a couple of years ago published in Human Genomics is basically the genetic ancestry of Mexicans and Puerto Ricans. Both would identify themselves as Latinos or Latin Americans. But what you can see here is the genetic ancestry is quite different. On the left-hand side, you have the African ancestry plotted on the y-axis. On the x, you have the Native American ancestry. And you can see, even though both populations consider themselves to be Latins, that the Mexicans have much more Native American ancestry in their genomes than the Puerto Ricans, which in contrast to the Mexicans have more American ancestry. So, and what you also can see here is basically, here there's a kind of overlap. There's also individuals. So basically every dot is one individual. There's an overlap. So they are heavily admixed individuals. And what I say is, okay, you would say this is a population, but here where there's an overlap between both ancestry, this is half-half. But even this would say, people would say, I'm a Latin Americans. And this has, of course, implication if you think on medical research, as our genome contributes to our health outcome. So population, in terms of genetics, I would not use really population or ethnicity. I would talk about genetic ancestry because it gives you a more clear picture how humans are related to each other. What are now the risk factors that influence our risk, our susceptibility, getting a disease, becoming sick? And I have here the three circles which probably play a key role. Of course, the environment where an individual lives, the social factors, the lifestyle factors an individual is exposed to, and its genomic background. And I've put here the genomic background, basically the evolution genetic history, because we are all embedded basically in a evolution genetic history. We can't escape it. And I have here the chimpanzee, the Neanderthaler, and me as an anatomical modern humans. But even between chimpanzee and humans, there's only 2% difference on a DNA nucleotide level. We are roughly 1% different to Neanderthal, but present-day humans are 99.9% similar to each other. So there is not much differentiation. If you look at your neighbor might be every 1,000, 1,500 DNA nucleotides different, which would translate that between you and your neighbor, there are maybe 3 to 4 million so-called SNPs or single nucleotide polymorphism differentiation between you. And so that's not much. And why is the evolution genetic history very important is, even though we are on a planet 8 billion people, from the evolution point, we are only 10 to 15,000 individuals. That's what our long-term evolutionary population size is. Not much, because if we compare to chimpanzee, which probably is only a few 100,000 individuals living on this planet, their long-term evolutionary effective population is 20,000. So they have much higher genetic diversity than we do as humans have. And this comes together that we suffer a lot of different risk factors to get sick basically in our life. Also because our genetic makeup has not much of a diversity to respond to environmental changes or to certain social lifestyles. And I've put here, if all factors come together in a detrimental effect, then you're exposed to the highest risk getting basically sick. What are the key evolution? What are the evolutionary forces acting on our genome? And of course, we are also exposed these days. You know, selection, the evolutionary forces acting all the time on our genetic heredity. It's not over. And one of the key selection for, among others, is natural selection. And why I'm focused here on this talk about natural selection is that it has been shown that selection is very powerful, can drive quickly certain alleles in a population to a high frequency, and can also increase the frequency of certain risk alleles, yeah, for certain disease or traits, because often alleles or genes are maintained in population because there's a trade-off. And for those of you who are not familiar with the concept of evolution anthropology or evolution biology, what is natural selection? And I just want to give you here a very brief lecture what happens basically in our genome. And here you can see this picture, what happens before selection, after selection. And if you see, there's basically three forms of natural selection. It's called purifying selection, then positive selection, balancing selection. Purifying selection means nothing else that if a mutation pops up on a chromosome which has a strong deleterious effect on the phenotype, it's associated with a disease or with reduced fertility, or the carrier is not reproducing at all, or is dying before it can reproduce, this allele or this gene is removed from the population rather quickly. And we see this why it's also known as monogenetic diseases, those diseases which, you know, where a single gene causes severe diseases, are usually not very common in population because of this strong effect of natural selection acting on this genetic variant. In contrast, positive selection is when there's a mutation pops up in a population and is highly beneficial. It's an advantage for its carrier because it's producing maybe more children, more healthy children. This person gets older. Then this mutation is quickly increased in the population until almost all individuals of a population are having this allele. Balancing selection is a form of positive selection where multiple alleles which are beneficial are maintained in the population. And the best thing is if you are in the individual who has both variants. And we have seen this in particular for the HLA gene, the human leukocyte antigen complex. This is a genetic system which produces molecules which binds antigens, peptides derived from parasites, from viruses and so on, presenting on a cell surface to T cells, and, you know, producing a strong immune response. And the diverser you are, the better off you are. So this kind of natural selection which acts on our genome. And I would like to give you some examples why I think this force is important to take in consideration when we design, you know, new treatments and thinking on healthcare. The first example is here the Duffy FYO blood group mutation, and maybe some of you heard of this or did hear about this already, because what it has caused is very strong effect on natural selection on region where Plasmodium vivax is occurring. You know, Plasmodium, which causes malaria, and malaria has such a strong effect on individuals in area where it occurs that basically it has created a certain allele. It's called the FYO allele, which almost every individual has it because it protects you from vivax malaria. So you will survive and reproduce, and therefore this has caused to a fixation of this genetic variant in this population. Whereas in Europe or in other countries, other alleles have popped up because, you know, in Europe, there's almost no malaria. So it's not necessary, or this allele has not been developed at all. So here you can see that in particular immune response genes are a prime target basically of natural selection. It's not only this FYR blood group mutation, as I said before, the human leukocyte antigen region, but also some interleukin and so on. And we know also that you know, with a high admixture in the past, we have you know, we took on some genetic material which makes us today fitter or more susceptible to certain diseases. So therefore, the evolution has to be taken into account why some populations are as they are in terms of immune response. But of course, it's not only the immune response which is constantly targeted by the pathogenic environment acting on us. Maybe it is probably the most strongest force, but nevertheless, also the Neolithic transition from hunter-gatherer to agriculture, you know, roughly 10,000 years ago, is of course associated with significant changes in lifestyle, in, you know, food, diet, but also, you know, exposing to new pathogens that derive from livestock, and has certainly influenced human evolution. Now, if you think the anatomically modern humans appeared on this planet 300,000 to 400,000 years ago, then I would say, you know, more than 90% of our time on this planet was hunting and gathering as a, you know, to get our food. So only a very short time we actually have based our life on agriculture, and even much shorter, you know, less than maybe 200 years that we have this kind of industrialization with you know, with complex societies. So all this has, of course, an impact of our genome, and we call it this evolutionary mismatch. What I want to say with this is that our genome basically is adapted maybe to a time before the Neolithic transition or early Neolithic transition, and it doesn't match properly with our very modern lifestyle, which, you know, results in cardiovascular diseases with increased autoimmune diseases, or also, you know, we have a massive problem with Alzheimer. It's increasingly strong increase in recent years, and there is prediction that it will maybe even overtake the current killer, the cardiovascular disease, particularly in Western society. But what is the evolutionary mismatch in terms of evolutionary genetics? Now, there is the idea that there is a kind of thrifty genetic variance, because, you know, before Neolithic transition, before we came to agriculture, you know, was hunting gathering, and so there was not all the time food available, and we developed kind of thrifty genetic variants. When food was here, we ate a lot, but there was also time where there are no food at all, so we had to store energy efficiently, and such a thrifty genetic variant was found in this CREP3 regulator factor gene in Samoans. Samoans, you probably know, is a population which is where many people are obese, and they found this a certain variant of this gene in Samoans, of this very efficient genetic variant which stores efficiently energy, so makes people quite, you know, obese, because, you know, today is a lot of food is available, which means there's an adaptation for a time which is several thousand years ago, where not much food was available, but today it's not the case anymore, but this gene is still in the population. So there's a mismatch. And not only that is, but why is this variant available? Because natural selection has driven this genetic variant in this population to high frequency. So almost every Samoa has this special variant. and therefore very high likelihood to get obese. So here we can see a prime example of evolutionary mismatch in a certain population. And this variance has been also found in other populations, but even at a rather rare level. But what is about adaptation to bad habits like drinking alcohol? And in my lab we have studied in Europe. You probably know that Europe is the region with the highest alcohol consumption in the entire world, and is associated with a lot of certain diseases like cancer, liver disease, liver cancer, but also brain damage and so on. And we do know that there are several genes involved in alcohol metabolism, and the key gene is the so-called LDH2, the acetaldehyd 2 gene. Because when you drink alcohol, what happens first is it's converted into acetaldehyde, and acetaldehyde is very toxic. It's attacking the cells. So this gene is very important to convert this acetaldehyde in the non-toxic acetate chemical compounds. And it is located on chromosome 12. And this area is associated with many, many diseases like cardiovascular diseases, with arthritis, with lupus, and so on. So with many autoimmune diseases. And we could show that this region is in European extremely under positive selection. It belongs to one of the genomic region which is shows the strongest signals of positive selection. So our conclusion is that Europeans have adapted to, let's say, alcohol drinking. And if you compare it with other population, like with East Asians, they have also genetic variants which hardly can be found outside of East Asia. It's called LDH2 allele. And this allele is basically causing an inactive enzyme. And is associated with alcohol intolerance. So those people have this called Asian flushing. It's associated with several phenotypic traits. So they can drink a lot. Also, they have, if they still drink, they have extreme high risk to develop cancer. In contrast, in Europe, we found that regulatory acting genetic variants which control the expression of the LDH gene are actually associated with increased LDH2 gene expression, which means that basically you see here natural selection acts in population differently. And one is basically reducing its activity and causing basically alcohol intolerance. In the other population, actually, it's increasing its activity, and this is associated with increased expression with higher enzyme activity. So these people can simply drink more alcohol. And interesting, I looked basically on ancient European hunter-gatherers. They didn't have this variant in Europe. So within a couple of thousands of years, and we estimated the age of positive selection is 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, which match quite historical data when, in Europe, alcohol production started. Within a couple of thousand years, basically these variants maybe from zero, only from few percentage in terms of frequency, increased to 50%. This means selection has acted very strongly on this gene to cope with increased alcohol consumption in Europeans. And here you see only below this thing. So this AA is this single nucleotide polymorphism. It's adenosine. Here's the G and G. This is the ancestral one, which we find in Africans, for example. And this is so the heterozygotes, and this is the Europeans. And you see it's higher expression than this ancestral one. And this is also found in different tissues. So this clearly indicates something has happened in the time. And this is also why it has increased its frequency, and it's associated with a lot of certain modern diseases. Modern diseases which is not found in many ancestral population like South-Saharan Africans. What are the benefits basically using population genomics? First of all, we gain insight, basically novel insight in evolution, genetic history of a population. I just told you it is important to understand in which evolution context population are embedded. And it can be used to determine more accurately the genetic ancestry of individuals compared to self-reported ethnicity, like the example of Latino, Puerto Ricans, and Mexicans, because people would assign, if you ask them which ethnicity do you belong to, and they would do this, what they think themselves. But using population genomics would basically uncover their true genetic ancestry. And why is this important? Because, if we design new treatment, people react differently to certain, medical treatment based on their genetic ancestry. Also, like Mediterranean country or also India, beta thalassemia, for example, is a disease which occurs quite common there, and people often don't know that they have a high risk to have this certain of blood disease. Then also, of course, if you use population genomic, it helps to understand the genetic architecture of complex human traits, not only disease, maybe also behavior. We just heard culture. I don't know, maybe also population, our genetic makeup influence what kind of culture we have developed or still develop. And also population genomics helps to identify population-specific adaptive regional genome, like the LDH2 gene, which genomic region shows signals of positive selection, which gives a hint that these individuals have been adapted to a certain environment, a certain lifestyle, if we design medical intervention. So what I propose is to use population genomics as an important complementary approach that complements basically clinical and epidemiological analysis. Last but not least is what tools and resources are available and basically are needed. Currently, many single nucleotide polymorphism arrays are used, and let's say for Europeans and Asians, it's okay for the majority of population. But if you think on tribes or small ethnic groups, then whole genome sequencing is the choice. We need to establish more biobanks. That's where also anthropology comes in. That we need also to include more underrepresented individuals, particularly from small ethnicities, tribes, indigenous population. So the focus, 80% of genomic studies are focused on Europeans and in Americans. And the benefit of greater ancestral diversity is not only to collect data and increase our knowledge about the genetic architecture of traits, but also to find rare variants that have a big effect size in terms of disease and so on. And also, last but not least, we move towards precision medicines, which means in the end, we will treat people basically not only taking in the environment and their lifestyle in account, but also their genomic makeup. It will be individualized. And those people who are not part now of big genomic sequencing studies will not benefit from it. And this is a risk for a particular small population. However, there are a lot of ethical questions because, if I do a whole genome sequencing, who has access to the data, what ethical implication has for people this, what else will we uncover, what our genome basically is associated with traits like with behavior or so on. There's also studies which show you that genomics basically is also associated with certain behavioral outcome. So there's also a lot of ethical question, I think, and here anthropological sciences will have a word to say how we deal with this data. But I think we will not stop. There is no stop because we see a lot of massive establishing biobanks like the UK biobanks, but also the Asian 101,000 biobank is developing, and we will see a flood of genomic data. And I think the benefits are still higher than the disadvantages, but important is that we take also underrepresented individuals into these biobanks. Otherwise, they will in the future not get the target medical treatments they should get. Okay, this was a short overview about population genetics, population genomics in health science and healthcare. Thank you very much for your invitation and for listening. If you have any question, please, you can ask me anytime or just write me an email. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Session. It's really very interesting to know that population genomics can allow for more accurate determination of genetic ancestry of the individuals compared to the self-reported ethnicity. It's really an interesting area of study where genomics can help in tracing the human ancestry rather than just self-reporting ethnicity of the people. So very interesting and a new area of research. So if anybody has got any point for discussion, it's open for discussion. Yeah, Dr. Deepak Adar has got some question from Professor Shamsi. Here,
So, northeastern part of India is considered as the melting pot of different population groups who have migrated this region at different period of times. They differ in respect of religion, language, culture, etc. And in this, particularly in Assam, we found abnormal hemoglobin in high percentage. So, what type of evolutionary genomics study can be undertaken in this part?
I'm really very sorry. I could not understand the question. So maybe can you go a bit closer to the microphone because I have this echo, so I have really problems to hear you.
Sir, in northeastern part of India, it is considered as melting pot of different population groups who have migrated this region at different periods of time. They differ in respect of religion, language, culture, and many other aspects. And in this region, we find abnormal hemoglobin HBE in high percentage. So, what kind of study can be undertaken in respect of evolutionary genomics in this region?
I'm still very sorry. I can't understand you not at all. I'm so sorry. I don't. It's still echoing. So I have really problems to hear you.
Is it clear now, sir?
It's much clearer. I can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir, in northeastern part of India, am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you now.
In northeastern part of India, we find different population groups who have migrated at different period of time. And they differ in terms of religion, language, and in many cultural aspects. And here we get the abnormal hemoglobin in higher percentage. Am I clear?
Health, I've understood health service. What health service? Yes, and
abnormal hemoglobin, sir. It is reported.
Maybe could the host say it again, because I could hear the host much better from AdtU host. Could you repeat the question, because I have really problems to understand you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I have really problems to understand your question.
I would just like to say, about his question, he wants to say that since there are many population groups in the northeastern part of India, so which differ not only in most of their cultural traits like their religion and their language and many other characters. So how, in his opinion, could genomics help in tracing the abnormal hemoglobin whose prevalence has also been reported to be very different among the different population groups? So how human genomic study can help in this aspect of studying about normality in the hemoglobin prevalence and others?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for this question. Okay. This is so India is definitely a country which will be for population a challenge because I think India has probably the most diverse tribes and small ethnic groups and indigenous population. And I think it will not be easy to have access to all of them. And also, of course, in the end, there's the question of money, how research can do the studies in such a huge diversity. I'm working myself in Thailand, having access to very small hunter-gatherer tribes. But the question is, will they really benefit in the end of the day from population genomics? This is an unanswered question, but I think still we should give a try. And in anthropological sciences, in biological anthropological sciences, there is of course the question also benefits versus non-benefits of diverse population to take in account. But I personally think on the long run, the small population will benefit also getting access to the genomic data, maybe not this generation, but the next generation. And as I said, I think the world is moving towards precision medicine quite quickly. And we all will experience that our genome will be tested, what treatment it's the best for us. Hopefully I could answer your question.
If I can add with what to the question that Dr. Deepak Adab has said, that in the northeastern region, there is a prevalence of abnormal hemoglobin in many of the population. And probably genomics can help trace the ethnicity or the path of migration from Southeast Asia, where the population are migrated, because these abnormal hemoglobins are concentrated only in some of the populations, not in all the population. So probably it will help a lot in tracing the path of migration of those particular population where these abnormal hemoglobins are present. Maybe if I am right. So genomics can, of course, it will be very helpful in studying these lands. So
yeah.
Any other questions if anybody has?
Yeah, you're right. So like in Europe, we see completely new diseases. We have a lot of immigrants from around the world, and we see completely new diseases in our society, and we have not really, let's say, the medical care here at the moment, to adapt to diseases, to new diseases which running around this globe. But this is kind of also globalization. I think probably in the future, we will have a much broader knowledge about the diversity of diseases. And as you said, very small tribes in East India, in the eastern reach of India, there's often only a few hundred people or a few thousand people. And they often suffer on certain diseases, and nobody was taking care about them so far, or understanding what is the genetic basis. As I said, we can't change at the moment the heredity is unchangeable at the moment. I think in the future, even this will be possible. What we can teach people is to change their lifestyle or change the environment. but the genes, as they are, we have to cope with it. I think it will be certainly a big challenge for India, but many other countries who are home for a very diverse population. But even I see for Europe, it's a challenge as we see coming in other diseases which have never seen before. And our healthcare hospital are not yet ready to deal with that. But they will have to change and adapt quickly to it.
Yes, you are absolutely right, sir. Genomics will be really very helpful in studying not only the ethnicity, but also in the modern healthcare services also. It's very helpful. So it's really very interesting area of study where the researchers can contribute in this area. So any other questions if somebody has to share? So there is no more questions, and if somebody has got any questions, then they will probably mail it to you. Then the discussion we can just carry forward those discussions. So,
thank you very much. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day. And my warmest greeting from the capital of Austria, from Vienna. And yeah, take care and have a good time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you for the attention. Very inspiring. Thanks a lot, sir. Okay, have a good day, sir. Next in our program, we have a felicitation program.
Can you just show this?
Photographs, huh?
ঠিক আছে এই তো আচ্ছা So we will start. I think the presenters, they will get much maximum. Please keep the time as you know we are. So as of now, for 8 minutes. Keep. You. Sorry. Stop. Take. Yeah.
081 874.
So many. Then. One, 4. Yeah. No words. Very sad. So there's the all of that.
he cannot. When this how many areas Guwahati and more than 1,000 acres. I know and how. In this state, they are ready. So, given the rice, seed, rice. So it is violently taxed. And it is started in 2016. Being that we have to wait for 5 years. That is and it is from after 2 years. Rice from the daily for daily. That is the expectation. It's by the government, by the people are getting 7 rupees, 7 rupees 5 days. Then it will go by so little for sale. They have to export from there. Then it's very inside like in other projects. So getting started and a very low price of production. So people are fascinated. So I could some because I have a very problem with you will be getting some current. So it's very aggressive, very now in progress. If start or then I will start getting that in my so I will continue that then they are saying actually they realize now that we are not getting this. We have destroyed our forest. Then we say dependent. People are 30% again. There. So palm oil plantation is there. So where people will go now, and they cannot even just add manual. They cannot go back. So this is the problem when technology gets safe. So this is the paper. So I just submitted it for 500 pounds. So some photographs, 100%, like I told them, what's up?
So in newspaper, I had said that palm oil is injurious to health because Patanjali has taken some initiative to cultivate these palm seeds. So in the newspaper, it came that it is injurious to health. It is mixed with the mustard oil, and then it is not good for them. If it is allowed by the government, if government asks the people who is the vision, whether this palm oil will be controlled or separately sold for purposes, traders will get the chance to mix it with the pure mustard oil, and then they can sell it in the market. So I think this is one aspect where we are to see. Actually, the researchers study these problems. They will